Everybody, Rosematter here, and welcome to part 8 of my House in Fata Morgana Let's Play. The last episode, we finished off the third door, and of course, another tragic ending with Jacobo ending up alone, having lost his best friend and his wife. And now we are apparently what they say is the final door. But I don't know, it just seems so soon. I'm just assuming there's a lot of stuff that happens afterwards. Because I know this is quite a long game. But yes, we're about to jump into the fourth door and see what tragic story will befell the white-haired girl, I'm assuming, yet again on this one. So let's go ahead and let's jump into it. Patches of what appeared to be blood stained in the surface, patches of what appeared to be blood stained the surface, and holes had been bored into it with sharp objects of some sort. Oh, that's an inviting sounding door. You heard a scream from far below, where no one should have been. This is just getting better and better. Kill the witch, kill the witch, kill the witch. Burn her, burn her, burn her. You were struck with fear. The next moment, the maid opened the door. And then you slowly descended into darkness. Okay, we are going way back, as opposed to the other ones where we have been progressing through time. Now we're flying way back in time. Set on a pot, set it on, and also pour water into it. Gather the pieces thereof into it. Even every good piece, the thigh and the shoulder. Fill it with the choice bones. Take the choice of the flock, and burn also the bones under it. And make it boil well, and let them see the bones of it therein. Thus saith the Lord, Woe to the bloody city, to the pot whose scum is therein, and whose scum is not gone out of it. Oh boy, because this is like in the early times, so we might have an interesting way of speaking in this one, so I apologize in advance if I butcher it. Bring it out piece by piece. Let no lot fall upon it. And there's the white-haired girl immediately. I wonder where it takes place this time, because people pointed out to me, and I feel dumb that I didn't, notice it, that the mansion also is in different places of the world with each door. So I'm wondering where this one takes place. Where is she? Where did she go? She came down this way, I'm sure of it. This may be the whole thing about witches. I'm guessing, based on the time this is in, we're probably getting into, the time of witches. I mean, not that people didn't believe in witches up until, not that long ago, but... Find her, and burn her. Burn the witch. 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 Burn her, burn her, burn her. Then I will leave thee upon the land. I will cast thee forth upon the open field, and will cause all the fowls of the heaven to remain upon thee, and I will fill the beasts of the whole earth with thee. And I will lay thy flesh upon the mountains, and fill the valleys with thy height. I will also water with thy blood the land wherein thou swimmest, even to the mountains, and the river shall be full of thee. And when I shall put thee out, I will cover the heaven and make the stars thereof dark. I will cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon shall not give her light. All the bright lights of heaven will I make dark over thee, and set darkness upon thy land. I seem to have lost them. Now, where am I? Where should I go from here? What am I to do? Darkness spreads as far as the eye can see. Not a ray of light shines down upon me. All that strokes my cheek are tendrils of darkness. Every passing day, every fading hour, my world is engulfed in ebony. There exists no kindness in this shadow, only solitude. I've lost track of how long I've been on the run, wandering aimlessly, lost, until I arrived at this dark forest. I no longer have anywhere to go, and this is where she will find the mansion again. O Father, who art in heaven, I kneel to thee within my heart, and ask of thee thy blessing. O Father, who art in heaven, I ask of thee to shine thy light upon me and show me the way. Please have mercy upon my soul. O Father, who art in heaven, I do love thee dearly, hallowed be thy name. Please show me the way. I may be shunned and persecuted, and I may have no place to go, but nevertheless, I am unable to give up on life, to cast aside my hope. O Father, who art in heaven, please guide me unto salvation. O Father, who art in heaven, please guide me. I can no longer remember when my life became naught but running, when it became endless wandering in the dark. And now, when I've reached the point where I've long since forgotten my hunger and thirst, my voice has become hoarse, my vision gone blurry, and my consciousness begun sinking into a hazy morass. That mansion appears before me, wrapped in a morning fog that seems to foretell rain. Who will she encounter this time? Who will be the man that she will encounter in the mansion this time? Oh my, the mansion comes into view, like the world fading in after a dream. It doesn't appear as though anyone lives here. All the windows are either boarded up or shuttered, as if it's long since been abandoned. A tower, which seems out of place in a personal residence, stands tall beside the mansion. The whole building seems as though it could disappear with the fog. It has an unwelcoming presence, freezing me in my tracks. However, if this is where you have led me, then I shall follow your guidance. Having nowhere else to go, this mansion is my only salvation. The light that guides my way. And so I must have faith that no matter what I find, whether spirits or wild beasts dwell within these walls, that this is where I will find peace. Is anyone there? I guess it is abandoned. That makes sense. It would be more unusual for someone to be living in a house so deep in the woods, so far from civilization like it's been forgotten to time. I can't imagine anyone spending their days here. I place my hand on the front door. What if I can't get in? I very much doubt I'll find anywhere else to stay wandering around through the woods. If the door doesn't open, then I'll die out here in the forest. I've come to accept much, but I'm not ready to forfeit my life yet. Please open. The door is heavy, and though it seems to protest my attempts to enter, it still opens much easier than I was expecting. I was worried over nothing. And will the maid be here too? Looking in, I get the strangest impression light is being swallowed up into the mansion's depths. Rather than going inside, it feels as though I'm about to step outside the boundaries of this world. When I close the door, it's so dark I can't even tell where I'm walking. I wonder if the window's open. Though I managed to fumble my way over to a window, it's tightly shuttered, and the shutters are caked with rust. I'm probably not getting it open without a fight. If only I had some source of light. I can't even see my hand waving in front of my face. It feels like the floor will fall out from under me and I'll sink into eternal darkness if I don't watch my step. Fighting back that fear, I slowly walk forward, tracing the wall with my hand. There's a door at the end of a long corridor. I pull it open, and a wisp of bone-chilling air brushes past me. It's too dark to see anything, but I can feel something different present in this area than the rest of the house. Uneasiness grips me. Is anybody there? My voice simply disappears into the void. No response. As I'm pushing forward through the freezing air, for a split second, I spot a shimmer of light. Squinting my eyes, I'm able to make out a large window. Unlike the others, it's not shuttered, but covered by drapes. My chances are slim, I imagine, but if there's even a slight possibility of getting some light in here, it's worth a shot. I'm guessing it's that stained glass window. It seems to come up a couple of times. It's important. So I pull open the drapes. Yep. Especially all the talk about, like, Father who art in heaven and speaking to God, and this is like the archangel. I was like, okay, The next moment, faint but colorful light shines down on me. It's a stained glass window. From beyond the glass, I can hear the subtle pitter-patter of rain. I guess it finally started. The different colors of light blend into a milky white, dim but wondrous. It's gorgeous. Why would someone cover this up? It's beautiful. With a little more light, it'd be... Please do not touch the drapes. Or the windows. Suddenly, I hear a voice, and I can sense someone else in the room. The man's voice is emotionless, neither deep nor high. Before long, he comes into view, illuminated by dull orange candlelight. Hey, that's the guy. Okay, it's not Mikkel, or however I said it before. I'm just gonna look it up really quick, because somebody did tell me in one of my videos how to pronounce his name, so hold on just a second. Okay, so it's Michel, so I have to remember that. I'm sorry for coming in uninvited, but, I did announce myself. The man stands there, practically blending in with the darkness. Has he been there the whole time? He's staring straight at me. His gaze wavers slightly, but not enough for me to read anything into it. The candle in his hand and the light from the stained glass window are the only illumination in the room, neither of which are particularly bright. As a result, his outline is faint and blurred. It gives off the impression he might vanish entirely between blinks. My apologies. I assumed the house was abandoned. I suspect you would have preferred it to be abandoned. Not at all. Is this, do you live in this mansion? Yes, I have for a very long time. I thought I had barred the front door, but it would seem I left it open. What brings you here? If you're lost, I am happy to give you directions. He's like, AK, get the fuck out. There is a village west of here. It should take you maybe a half day on foot. If you are in need of money, help yourself to some of the furniture. Trade it for food at the village, then make your way to a larger town. Please allow me to stay here. Could you repeat that? I cannot go to the village. No, I cannot go anywhere. She's like, I look like you. She's like, I'm assuming there's a reason you're probably holed up here. And it might be the same reason that she's holed up, that she is being chased because they think she's a witch. I am no longer able to freely return to any town. I'm being hunted. You seem rather young to be a sinner. So you have transgressed. I am neither a thief nor an adulterer. If I bear any sin, then it has been with me since birth. I will do everything I can to stay out of your way. I simply ask that you grant me shelter until it all blows over. If you wish to know of my transgression, I will tell you. So please, do not throw me out. I see. And do you ask this of me aware of how people refer to this mansion? Pardon? It is said a witch once lived in this house. And not just any witch, a cursed witch. This house has been tainted by her seething hatred, and all who dwell within it meet their demise. But you live here, don't you? Like her, I too am cursed. Huh? What kind of curse? He's like, that's a thing to ask a stranger. The one thing I can tell you is that your life is in danger if you get involved with me. She's probably like, I'm used to getting involved with men and having it go badly for me. Whatever. Should you approach my curse, I am likely to take your life. You'll kill me? Yes, so you do not belong here. To live with me in this mansion is to sentence yourself to death. Well, she lived with not an actual beast, but, you know, a killer as well. So once again, it's just, she's used to it. No matter what path I choose, I very much doubt I have a future. And if that's the case, then I shall live how I want. I don't care what people say about you, or this mansion. I wish to stay here. It's nice after the last white-haired girl in the last door being so complacent and, you know, just like, what's the word I'm thinking of? Meek, I guess is the word. It's nice to have, like, she seems to have some agency about her. Kind of like the one from the second door. You might think I'm rather strange, but my heart tells me that I must stay here. that I was guided here, and hearing what you have to say only reinforces that. What are you scheming? I am not scheming anything. I am simply tired of running, so if your curse is going to kill me, then perhaps that's for the best. At the very least, you won't be hunting me. You won't try to flay me or tear off my arms, or rip the flesh from my bones. And that's enough for me. If you have committed no sin, then why do they hunt you so fervently? I want to know, like, what is, like, why, is she actually a witch? Once again, I deal with games where it's a whole thing about witches. Do they exist or not? Like, is she actually a witch? Is she just being accused based on how she looks? Why does she keep coming back to this mansion? Why, through different times? And in, like, looking slightly different and with different backstories. Like, what is the overarching, like, story? That's what I want to know. I am accused of being a witch. Master, Master, please wake up. Return to me. Ah, have you come too, Master? I apologize for sending you through the door without warning. It must have given you quite the scare. But I beg for your forgiveness. I heard a terrible screaming from down the stairs, and I panicked. You say you saw the white-haired girl. I see, so you made it into the world beyond the door before me. I'm deeply relieved I was able to take your hand before losing sight of you. I presume you've already grown familiar with the atmosphere of this time period, Master? If you have seen her, as you said, then you should have a basic grasp of the situation. She was a very misfortunate girl in this era, accused of being a witch, abused, and persecuted. Her life was in constant danger. It was, again, her appearance that brought this upon her. That snow-white hair and those ruby-red eyes clearly differentiated her from everyone else. Oh, and I apologize. I neglected to mention that this door is unique. As for what sets it apart, that will be made clear as we proceed. Though one difference is in the time period. The tales I've shown you began with that of the beautiful flaxen-haired family, followed by the tale of the bloodthirsty beast, and then the tale of steel and ambition, proceeding in chronological order. However, the door we have just entered takes us to a period now known as the Middle Ages, long, long before the other three tales. Yes, that is correct. This is where it all began. The mansion's curse, the truth of the witch, and your identity. All of this should be made known. If after this tale you are still unable to reclaim your old self, then there is nothing more I can do. This door contains the last tale I'm able to tell you. So I ask of you, please do not let go of my hand until it is all over. Now then, let us begin a beautiful, tragic love story of two solitary souls trapped in a mansion of darkness. In this era, the mansion was a dungeon draped in darkness. Oh, and people also told me to check the log, I believe? Backlog, because things can change. Okay, so already I'm seeing... Oh, wow, okay. Let me just see this. So things are blanked out here. Huh. Okay, so these things they have said, but then there's the stuff in red here. Let me scroll down. My lifeblood was your sustenance, your prosperity. Upon my blood did you build your lives. A sin so great it shall never be forgiven. By my blood were your lives extinguished. This is the power granted unto me by God. My blood shall become a curse, blotting out the stars. I am the witch Morgana! Whoa! Okay. Now let us begin a tale, the beautiful finale to this world. Okay, shit, so this Morgana, is this the white-haired girl? Or is this, like, somebody else? Woo! Okay, I'm glad I was told to do this. So I will have to remember to keep checking back here. Okay, you having been trapped in perpetual darkness found light in the same house where I withered away. That light was bestowed upon you by a certain woman, was it not? Leave everything to me, my dear. I promise I shall make this into a most beautiful tale. Yes, I am giving you a special treatment. A rare act of kindness from me, of warmth. Oops, no! Ah, sorry. Backlog. I need to get to the backlog again. You do not wish her to know the truth, and I can make better use of her like this. So it is to both of our benefits to rewrite the woman you loved. Okay, and then the one that I accidentally skipped was, after a great deal of time on the run, the white-haired girl found herself at a remote mansion that stood in a dark, overgrown forest. All the windows were either boarded or shuttered, and it was even darker inside the house than out. Not even a ray of moonlight could enter those walls. Only naturally, the white-haired girl had assumed nobody had lived there, but her guess was incorrect. Someone did, indeed, dwell in the house. It was a young man named Michel. Though she could not make out the details of his face in the candlelight, she thought him a very handsome man. However, he proclaimed to her that a witch resided within the mansion, and that he too was cursed. Everyone who got close to him lost their lives. Do you think that what he told her was all nonsense? A lie devised to chase her out of the house? The truth of the matter shall come to light in time. Despite Michelle's assertions, the white-haired girl decided she would take up residence within the mansion. This era's white-haired girl was younger than the others. She was still in her early teens, young enough to be seen as still a child. But she was neither as self-centered nor irresponsible as you might expect of someone her age. She was very delicate and reserved, and acted with a great deal of modesty and restraint. The accusations of her being a criminal and a sinner were grossly inappropriate. Nevertheless, she was still chased from her home, barely managing to flee to this mansion with her life. Now, the white-haired girl thought it would be rude to simply take up space in the mansion, so she chased down the master, Michel, and asked, "Is there anything I can do to help? I will clean or cook or do anything, just let me know. I want to repay you for allowing me to stay here. You need not feel indebted to me. The weight of that obligation will only turn into disdain. But I can't just stay here and do nothing. Do whatever you like, as long as you do not enter my room. That is all I ask of you." Ooh, the master bedroom that the key was locked away. Now let's just go back and see. We'll just check it every once in a while. Okay, so still nothing yet. He said emotionlessly, turning away and walking off. Michel was not, I believe, spurning her. He was merely disinterested. He did not treat her disrespectfully, nor did he seem adverse to her presence. Words simply did not seem to affect him at all. Not only was the mansion a prison for his body was also a prison ensnaring his heart. I should still do whatever I can, but she did not let that get her down. In fact, she might even have interpreted his disinterest as kindness. Though he was a bit standoffish, he did not attempt to cause her harm. He was nothing like the people who had accused her of being a witch and forced her to flee for her life. And she was deeply grateful for that. I wonder if the moment that we saw with the master bedroom where she was saying, like, master, you know, everybody says that you're, like, standoffish and rude and stuff, but you're actually, like, not that bad. If that was the white-haired girl talking to Michel? But why would she call him master? Thus began their quiet life together, Michel, who avoided contact with others, and the white-haired girl, who had taken a great deal of abuse from others. Two people who knew hardly anything about one another, who were too distant to really be said to be living together. Michel spent most of his day in his chambers, so they only ever saw each other occasionally, and they hardly ever spoke. Though they stayed in the same house, they both still lived solitary lives. Nonetheless, the white-haired girl wanted to get to know Michel better. She wanted to know why he called himself cursed, why he lived alone in this dark mansion, how many days, how many years he had spent here in solitude, and while she waited for the opportunity, she also started doing things around the house. The first project she set out to take care of was cleaning. As the windows were all firmly shut, her only source of light was candles. For whatever reason, there were a great deal of candles stored in the cellar. She wondered where on earth he'd acquired so many, but she never found the opportunity to ask him. It was difficult to even see all the dust and cobwebs with only candlelight, and considering the poor airflow through the house, she was afraid her efforts were going to be in vain. Still, she persisted, sweeping and wiping things down, one room at a time. Eventually, she made her way to the library. The dust that had settled there was much heavier than in any other room. With each breath, she had to fight back coughs. It was not a room one would normally be comfortable spending much time in, but the sight of so many bulky volumes lining the shelves sent her heart aflutter with delight. There are books. Incredible, real books. The white-haired girl had never seen a book before. She had heard people describe them, but that was the first time she'd ever seen one for herself. Alright, let's check the backlog. Do we have anything here? Nope, nothing yet. Parchment was a very valuable commodity in that era. It was something monks or scholarly priests made use of, and not a material one could easily acquire without some degree of social rank. Books were not printed with machines, but copied by hand. A single volume took an incredible amount of work to create. Even the process of binding was an art. Standing before a shelf, she stared intently at the spines. There's so much dust. Does he not read any of them? Just a peek, just a tiny little peek, she said, making excuses to the empty room as she reached her hand toward one of the books. The tome that caught her eye was on the upper shelf. It bore gorgeous jade embossing and looked like it belonged in a treasure chest. Almost. Though she tended to act older than her age, the white-haired girl was still in her early teens and not especially tall. Even standing tiptoe, it was still just barely within reach. Nuh. At long last, her slender fingers made contact with the spine, and she began to pull the book toward her, and they all fall, which is why when I went to the library, I kept trying to put the books back and they kept falling. Ah! The library had sat abandoned for some time, causing the covers to stick together. So when she attempted to pull one out, yep, several others tilted with it. And then, almost all the books on the shelf came avalanching down onto her. Oh, ow! The white-haired girl groaned, buried under a mountain of parchment. She hoped she had not damaged any of her host's valuable collection, but the mess was enough of a setback already in her attempt to express her gratitude. Looking around, she saw one volume that was almost torn in half. She did not know whether it was in that condition before, or if it had happened in the fall, but nonetheless, she felt horribly guilty. Sitting there, unable to get back to her feet, tears began welling in her eyes. Then suddenly, a shadow fell over the dejected girl. It took a book in its hand and returned it to the shelf. For a brief moment, the shadow's hand reached hesitantly toward the white-haired girl, then changed course toward another book. I just realized, too, they said a love story, and I'm like, she's in her early teens. How old is this dude? Ew. Ah, it was Michel. There was a hint of perplexity in his otherwise emotionless eyes. Perhaps he had heard the noise and come to see what had caused it. I'm so sorry. Your books. What were you doing? I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to make a mess. I didn't mean to damage such precious books. There's no need to panic. I'm sorry. You make it sound as though I'm admonishing you. What? Did you want to read a book? I do, but that's not what I originally came here to clean. Clean? Yes, I felt guilty simply being idle. I did say you could do as you pleased, but you have no responsibility to clean anything. You know what? If you're living in a mansion and you don't get to, talk to anybody throughout the day, there's nothing to entertain you, you just do what you can to keep yourself busy. I probably would do the same thing, plus I just hate being in places that are dirty, so I probably would just start cleaning just to, occupy my time. I just ended up making a bigger mess anyway. I'm sorry. You needn't apologize. Oh, okay. If you want to read, help yourself to any of the books. But I don't know how to read. I just thought the cover was pretty, so I wanted to hold it. This is kind of like the one with Mel, where I couldn't remember, she could read. I can't remember if she could read or not, but either way, she really loved books and stories. You're free to use them however you wish. If looking at them is enough for you, by all means. These are all your books, aren't they? They are. That's incredible. You have so many. It must have taken you a long time to acquire them all. One per month. What? My family sends me one every month. Every month? The white-haired girl turned her gaze back toward the shelves. squinting her eyes and beginning to count. When she finished, she was in awe. There were in excess of 100 books on the shelf, which meant he had lived there in solitude for many years. She was at a loss for words. They're dull tomes, dreadfully inoffensive, and not even interesting enough to waste a few hours with. Decoration is all they're good for. I see. If you can put them to some use, then perhaps my having them won't be entirely meaningless anymore. I'm going to return to my room. Don't feel obligated to clean up. Just a minute. Was there something else? Could you tell me your name? I just realized I never asked for your name. Not knowing what to call you will make conversation awkward. You don't need my name to... I want to, though. Michelle. Michelle, like the Archangel. The name suits you quite well. It suits me? It does, although it's difficult to see you in the dark. You seem to be a very handsome man, befitting of your name. I beg to differ. Giving me his name is the highest form of mockery. Alright, so the weird thing is that sometimes when she talks to him, the conversations here are written as normal, but then, other times, like here, things are starting to be blanked out again. So I'm trying to figure out what is the... Is there some sort of code or riddle or something to why certain things are blanked out? It's strange. It's strange. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know. I think it's a wonderful name. And you're... Of course she's not going to give her name. She never does. No, never mind. Oh, my name? My name is Giselle. Oh! She just straight up gave... Is that like a fake name? Or is that... Does her name change also? Or is that always her name? I was just surprised that she actually did. Please, call me Giselle. Oh, thank goodness. For what? That I was able to get your name and talk to you for a little bit. We haven't seen much of each other since I first arrived, so I'm glad that I got to hear your voice. So very glad. You gain nothing by speaking to me. You have no responsibility to do so, and there is no need to feel joy about it. I'm not pleased out of some sense of responsibility or necessity. It's just depressing, not being able to have a conversation with someone living in the same house. You do not understand me at all. As I said on that first day, my curse will one day kill you. Oh, that's why he's keeping himself away, is because he doesn't want to hurt her. But I'm still alive, aren't I? You are welcome to believe I am lying, or that I am merely out of my mind. But it will be too late when you realize the truth. I'll be fine, I'm sure. And even if I do die because of your curse, I promise I won't hold a grudge. Could you possibly be keeping away from me out of concern? No, I simply have no interest in interacting with anyone. I would like to interact with you, if you don't mind, that is. As I told you, you have nothing to gain from that. I have nothing, not even words, to give you. My body is but a shell, even if I were not cursed. My presence would do naught but cause you discomfort. I don't think that's true. I don't believe that there's anyone in this world with absolutely nothing. There's plenty inside you. You simply haven't noticed it yet. White Hair Girl's best motivational speaker ever. She said the same thing to whatever the merchant's name was trying to prep him up and be like, you're a good person and you're not a beast. And now she's saying the same thing to him. And not all of it will only cause others pain. Not all of it will only cause others pain either. If you truly believe those words, then you are a foolhardy girl. How can you trust someone you only just met? For that matter, how do you not resent everyone? Resent them? I can take a guess as to why people call you a witch, and why you had to flee all the way to this mansion. Because they look alike. Your white hair and red eyes. That abnormal, seemingly inhuman appearance drew their condemnation. And I can think of any number of reasons they might have started treating you as less than human. Perhaps people around you experienced misfortune, or perhaps there was a natural disaster, a famine, a plague, some kind of external phenomenon. and you were their scapegoat. Yes, you are by and large correct. Then that would make me as unworthy of your trust as anyone else. I make no claim to have your interest in mind. Goodbye. If you don't mind, could you teach me how to read sometime? Did you listen to anything I said? I listened, yes. I have no intention of idolizing you. I don't expect you to do anything for me, and I don't wish to burden you in any way. I simply wish to be allowed to be at your side. It does not matter to me what kind of person you may be. That just seems to be the white-haired girl's, like, her whole purpose in her different lives is to just stick her, like, attach herself to the man of the mansion and basically just be just there for him. That is all I want, but then she curses them with misfortune. It's like she is the cursed one in some way. I apologize for keeping you. Please consider it if it's not too much trouble. As the master of the house, Michel made his way out of the library. He appeared to be slightly rattled. Perhaps the white-haired girl's determination had ignited something in his chained heart. Or perhaps it was something else. She stared towards the darkness in which Michel had disappeared. Then she carefully wrapped her arms around the jade-embossed tome, a soft smile spreading across her lips. He's a decent man, I'm sure of it. We're alike, he and I. And thus began to blossom within her a faint sense of fellowship, as someone who also knew solitude. It had been about a week since the white-haired girl had taken up residence in the mansion. Staying in that house, deprived of light, was, I imagine, a very claustrophobic experience. To anyone blessed enough to have sunlight as part of their everyday lives, it would have been unbearable. But for her, the mansion, with its prison walls and lack of either illumination or recreation, was the one place she could find respite. She and Michel continued to be distant, however. He spent most of his time in his chambers, which he had explicitly told the white-haired girl to stay out of, leaving her unable to close that gap. Nonetheless, on the occasions they did cross paths in the hallway, their eyes would meet, if but briefly. It was never for more than a few seconds. Whenever she saw him, she made a point of giving him a little smile. He never said anything, but still, when she had first arrived, he would not even have met her gaze. He seemed to be taking more and more notice of her. One day, the white-haired girl stood in the cellar, a frown on her face. Well, this is troubling. I can't go down to the village, but if we don't do something soon... The cellar was where their food was stored, an assortment of non-perishables and dried foods, smoked meats and cheeses. Her daily meals were taken from the supplies there. However, the stockpile was beginning to grow quite small. Were she not on the run, she could have gone to the village to procure more. Or perhaps, where she were a little tougher, she could have captured a wild animal for its meat. So the question is, I mean, Michel had all that stuff anyway, but, like, what does he do to, you know, like, he's been here for so long, I mean, 100 months at least. Like, did he just have a stockpile of food and they're just starting to run low now? Or does he somehow go and get that food himself if he, like, doesn't interact with people? But master, you know a young delicate thing like her was hardly up to the task of hunting for food. How does he normally get his supplies, I wonder? From there, other questions about Michel started raising in her mind. Maybe like, have I ever seen him eat at all? No matter how lifeless he seemed, surely he still had to eat, right? The white-haired girl nodded, then made her way out of the cellar, intending to head for his bedchamber. Ah. But on her way there, she spotted him standing by the entrance, staring motionless at the door, lit by a single candle. He appeared to be waiting for something. He's waiting for Uber Eats. May I ask you a question? Go on. I was just down in the cellar, and I noticed we were running low on food. Do you normally go down to the village to restock? I haven't been outside in 10 years. Then how do you... What if I told you I don't eat? What? That I am not of this world, but why do you have all that food? And as such, I have no need of sustenance. What would you think of that? That sounds very, economical? If you can survive without having to eat, that's one less thing to worry about. If it were possible, I'd like to have that ability too. It would seem trying to frighten you is a waste of time. Ah, was I supposed to be afraid? Never mind. It doesn't matter. You asked about the food in the cellar. It's getting to be about that time. Wait, and you will find out. What do you... It's here. It is. My Uber Eats delivery has arrived. Oh? If you want to know where my supplies come from, open the door. But I'm in hiding. There's no one at the door anymore. The knock is nothing more than a signal. A signal? The white-haired girl turned towards Michel to press him for more information, but he averted his gaze. Find the answer yourself, he seemed to be saying. She took several moments to gather her will, then marched over to the door. So bright. The sunlight, which she had not seen in some time, was so bright it seemed to burn her eyes. Although the sun itself had not gotten any brighter, she had simply spent so much time in the dark, her eyes were no longer accustomed to that much light. The color of her eyes made them quite sensitive to light already, so when she stepped outside, her whole world went bone white. The white-haired girl stood motionless for 10, perhaps 15 seconds, and when her eyes had finally adjusted to the light, what's this? She noticed a crate on the ground at her feet. She turned her head back to ask Michel about the box, but the mansion was so dark it appeared to be wholly severed from the outside world. It's like his Amazon delivery. There you go. It's like medieval times. From where she stood, she was unable to distinguish Michel from the shadows. A pang of nervousness struck her. She wanted to return to the darkness as quickly as possible. The white-haired girl had come to yearn for that world without light more than the one with vampire. I know, probably not, but I'll keep saying it. The crate was fairly hefty. The slightly built girl had considerable difficulty bringing it into the house. But eventually, she did manage to drag it through the front door. And then, everything went dark once more, except for the faint flicker of candlelight floating in the air. You can leave it there. I'll take care of the rest. What's... Well, I mean, he did say that his family delivers him books, so they probably deliver him food as well. Without a word, Michel approached her and the box, withdrawing a knife that had evidently been hidden somewhere on his person. With it, he cut through the rope that bound the box. Go on, open it up. At his insistence, she placed her hand upon the lid. She had no idea what lay inside this unexpected delivery. Whoever had brought it was already long gone. Staring at the strange box, she was racked with nervousness. However, what she found when she pushed aside the lid was completely ordinary food. Huh. Is something amusing? It was just rather anticlimactic. Here I was worried about what might be inside. We were just talking about the supplies in the cellar. So, we were. It completely slipped my mind. This should last us for some time. It's all preserved, just like what's in the cellar. But I don't understand. Oh, actually, I should probably check the backlog. It has been a while. Alright, nothing new there. Who would deliver all this to you? There should be a book in there as well. So obviously he must come from like a rich family or scholars or something if he's able to get a book every month. Or he's just like, he's joined a Book of the Month club or something. Oh, there it is. In the library, he said that his family sends him one book a month. Does that mean this box came from them? If so, then why did the person who delivered this leave without speaking to him? What happened between him and his family? Is he here because they want him here? Or because he chose to be here? Take the book to the library, please. I will bring the rest of the supplies to the cellar. But it's a big box. I'm sure you could use some help carrying it. That won't be necessary. Take the book and go. But... fine, then stay here. I'll take care of everything. Oh, wait, hold on, please. What is it? You don't have to answer this if you don't want to. And I'm not trying to pry, but I am trying to pry. I can't help but be curious. Say what you have to say, please. I was wondering if you could tell me why you live here, in this mansion. Why did whoever delivered this box leave before you even opened the door? Could you perhaps be imprisoned here? I told you this the very first day. I am cursed. It's only natural for a cursed man to live in a cursed house. Is it because of his hair and eyes too, where it's like his family think he's cursed and they've shut him away as like a secret shame? Yes, but that's such a vague answer. I don't understand why you're in the situation you are. I don't know how you feel about it. There's so much I don't know. And I'm not even sure if your curse actually exists. I see. That is a perfectly reasonable doubt from your point of view. Having been branded a witch because of your appearance. It would make sense you would think my curse might be fabricated, or perhaps a metaphor for something else. Alright then, come with me. What? I'll show you my curse. As he turned on his heels, the white-haired girl caught a glimpse of what appeared to be a smirk on his face, like the whole thing was some kind of sick joke. That smile, carved into his mask, was far colder than any look of annoyance or rejection. But despite the twinge of nervousness, she still followed after Michel. As much as he might have stood out in a crowd, with such height and long hair, his presence was almost entirely eroded away by darkness. She felt he could simply fade away into nothingness at any moment. Many things are buried here. Huh? Mice, insects, wild cats, and dogs. Have you ever thought it strange how little life there seems to be around this mansion? You're right. I haven't seen a single creature since I arrived. The only sound you can hear is the wind blowing. Now that you mention it, it did seem peculiar. They were all killed by me. Or rather, they lost their lives because of me. You have your answer now. A butterfly fluttered its way into the ruined garden, dancing up and down through the air. Michel held out a finger before himself, and the butterfly, mistaking it for a branch, drifted down upon it to rest its wings. Had the scene stopped there, it would have been a picturesque moment. All that comes in contact with me loses its life. My skin, the breath I exhale, my flesh and blood, is poison to all life. But the butterfly's movements began to slow. It spread its wings in one last futile attempt to fight gravity, and then, without warning, it shriveled up into a dry husk. It's dead, all dried up and lifeless, like it's been dead for days. It's like his finger drained all the life out of it. Is this his curse? Is this even possible? But I saw it with my own eyes. If this is his curse, though, it explains much. There are more than just insect and animal corpses buried here, too. Servants who came to visit me long ago are here beneath the ground, under our very feet. I haven't seen the maid yet, so I guess this is going to be the time where she's not going to be around. And nothing new from what I can see. That's why the servant leaves before I open the door. Should he touch me, should he get near me, his very life is in danger. No one is interested enough in seeing me to take that risk. No one will have anything to do with me. Nary a soul even wishes to see my face. Now you understand what I mean when I say I would eventually kill you. So that's why you never once touched me. Maybe he will touch her at some point and she won't die. Maybe she's cursed too, secretly. When I knocked the books down in the library, you didn't offer your hand to help me up, and only one of us ever made contact with the box at the entrance at a time. When I offered to help you carry it, you refused, because you didn't want your finger to accidentally brush against mine. My actions were not out of concern for you. I simply dislike people. Others' interests mean nothing to me. What an odd face you're making. Do you not believe my curse is real? No, I do. It is certainly irrational, inexplicable, unbelievable. But you've shown me more than enough evidence, and I don't believe you're lying to me right now either. In which case, you now understand how dangerous it is to be near me. You said that if you left, you would be killed. But it's been some time since then. If you're careful to cover your tracks, you could make your escape. You do not belong here." He was telling the truth about being cursed. What a cruel burden to have to bear. I can't imagine just how much he's given up on, how many lives he's inadvertently taken, and how he must have felt every time it happened. How much pain that loneliness must have given him. How much despair he must carry in his heart. How much sorrow must be weighing down on him. She's like, he's a broken man and I need to fix him because that's what I do. So no, I will not leave. I will stay here with you. Leave this place. No, I will not. Why? Why do you insist upon remaining in this house after learning what I can do? You have no reason to stay. Tell me then, why do you try to drive me out? If you don't care for others, as you say, if you're not concerned about anyone else, then what does it matter what I do? What does it matter if I die to your curse? You're a very kind-hearted man. You've been watching out for me since the day I arrived, doing whatever you can not to inadvertently kill me, to not afflict me with your curse. No. Here's what I think. No one capable of showing genuine care for others can honestly, truly dislike all people. They can't possibly be indifferent. Wouldn't he just be able, maybe if he wore some gloves, would that not solve the problem if it's like direct touch? No, that day we met before the stained glass window, you heard me out. You listened to my plight. You didn't try to chase me out. That day, I thought you to be a good person, and I still believe that. I simply assumed you would leave on your own when it was safe. His face, he just looks so annoyed. I never thought you would be so foolish as to want to stay in a house like this, with a man like me. How does that make me foolish? Do you not value your life? Are you not afraid of death? Do you not find me unpleasant? The thing I fear most is loneliness. You're probably right that by now I could safely sneak away, get myself somewhere far from here. But even if I did, I would inevitably find myself in the same situation. The only way I can avoid that fate is to stay away from everyone, to live in solitude with no one to talk to. I know you understand how that feels. It terrifies me. I'm afraid of having to spend day after day with no one to talk to, no one to share my experiences, my thoughts, my feelings with. That's what awaits me out there, and I want to live with you. I want you to be an essential part of my life. Impossible. Please don't chase me out. You are a cruel girl. Never again will I allow myself to get close to someone, only to watch them die. Never again. My mother was the first to die. It happened shortly after my birth. Next was my wet nurse. 2 deaths could be considered a coincidence, but as the numbers rose, it became clear that I was cursed, and I was forbidden from making contact with anyone, even at home. Regardless, being in the same house, accidents will happen. Numerous people lost their lives. Attendants unfamiliar with me, or those who simply brushed up against me by mistake. I couldn't take it any longer. Just put him in a bubble. Just make him a bubble boy. Be fine. So you chose to move here, to this remote mansion, to keep yourself away from your family. You weren't imprisoned here. You elected to live alone, so you wouldn't hurt anyone. For better or for worse, I was born into a noble house. So rather than abandon me, they've provided me the means to live out of sight. I will be very careful. I will do everything I can to ensure no accidents occur, to keep you from being alone again. I will not, for any reason, touch you. You have my promise. Your curse takes the life of anything you touch. I've been here for a while, and death has not befallen me yet. As long as I do not touch you, there shouldn't be a problem. Also, and I apologize if this is simply me reading too much into things, but I feel like we're two of a kind. I fear being utterly alone more than anything, and I think you understand just how scary that is. So, why are you so stubbornly insistent on it being me? I'm sure there's someone else out there. Someone you're meant to be with. You may not have found them yet, but I believe someone like you eventually will. Because unlike me, You still have the vigor to press forward. It has to be you. I'm certain of it. Why? Because, well, you can't tell me? No, I can. Just, please don't get upset with me. I think... You think what? What? I might really, really love you. No, girl! No, you're so young. No. It's just like... It's just schoolgirl love, right? Like, she's early teens, like probably 14, 13, 14, 15. And he's probably at least in his, like, 20s. I can understand if, you know, that's the only person that she could attach to, that she would, of course, like, have some love. It's like she's just destined to love the men here. His was a power that evoked images of witches or demons, the unclean and the impure. A mere touch was all it took for him to strip man and beast alike of its life. God had quite a cruel streak to bestow such a power upon such a beautiful young man. And a strange power it was indeed, like something out of a fairy tale. Like something confined to words upon the page. It seemed otherworldly, unbelievable. Nonetheless, as he had demonstrated to the white-haired girl, his peculiar powers were indeed real. That said, the world has its fair share of oddities. It just so happens that those curiosities tend to remain hidden away, known only to a few. Although you have laid eyes upon a number of unusual phenomena yourself, Master. The doors to the past through which we have passed, this very mansion, and, as a matter of fact, the two of us. Now, as you just saw, the white-haired girl found herself enraptured with this man and his accursed power. How do you think Michel acted in response to her proclamation? He had spent so long refusing to interact with others, no, unable to interact with them. As such, he was unsure how to respond. After standing there expressionless for a few moments, he muttered, "I'll consider it." And with that, he returned to his chambers. While he was not someone who wore his heart on his sleeve, I personally do not believe he was completely devoid of emotion. He had simply forgotten how to express them in his extended solitude. So I think he was, in that moment, in a state of complete panic. She had, after all, just assaulted him with a stream of incomprehensible declarations. That, knowing the truth, she still wished to remain in the mansion. And that, knowing the truth, she loved him. The love she had declared for Michel was not a fleeting puppy love. There was genuine tenderness and warmth to her words. But he had gone through his life shunned, feared, pushed away. To him, that was normal. He had never given anyone reason to have any fondness for him, so he found himself utterly unsure how to take the affection she was showing. Of course, he was not the only one rattled by the whole affair. Oh dear, several days had passed since Michel had asked for time to think. He had still yet to show himself again. This is all my fault. The white-haired girl paced anxiously through the halls on the off chance she might run into him. As per his request, though, she kept her distance from his chambers. Nevertheless, she was beginning to worry about the fact that he had secluded himself away for so long. But she worked up the courage and made her way to his room. What if he doesn't want to see me ever again? I didn't consider I might be overstepping my bounds before opening my mouth. Every step she took was slow and laborious. Her mind raced with worry and doubt. I should at least tell him I'm sorry. Rather than out of a desire to know how he felt, she was compelled by guilt and a desire to apologize. After walking for some time, she arrived at a door sitting in an utterly unlit hallway. She drew in a breath of musty air and let it out, repeating the process several times. Next, she reached her hand up to knock on the door and pulled it back, also doing this a number of times. Oh, how adorable she was! I wanted nothing more than to give her a little nudge. After all, she was too sweet a girl for her worries to be anything but misplaced. So, the other stories, the maid has actually been there in the mansion seeing these happen, but here, she doesn't seem to be here at all, so is she only experiencing this story from seeing it through the doorway? I just can't find the courage. Maybe I should come back another day. But what's the point of waiting? I need to apologize and get the weight off his back now. She gathered her courage once more, this time determined she would do it. The white-haired girl moved her small fist toward the door, which then swung open. Ah, I'm sorry. Please, you must announce your presence. I almost walked right into you. Are you in that much of a hurry for a mishap? I'm sorry. And I believe I told you to stay away from my chambers. You did, so I spent a long time debating whether I would. But I decided I really wanted to tell you this. Oh, well, actually, I am truly sorry. What? The other day, I could barely manage to get the words in my head all the way to my mouth. There was no room in my mind for anything else. I shoved my own thoughts and feelings into your face, not considering they might not be what you wanted, just running nonstop, not thinking at all. I was terribly disrespectful to you, completely selfish. You're a kind-hearted man, I truly believe that. But you were only being courteous because you're a nice man. I'm sure you have little interest in the affections of a queer little girl. So, I would love it if I could stay here. It would be a wonderful blessing. But if you really don't want me here, if my feelings are imposing upon you, then I apologize. I'm sorry, and I'll take my leave of this house. I'm sorry. Don't be. My mind went blank for a moment. What? I find it difficult to comprehend you. The other day, you were firm in your intentions to stay, and now you say you'll leave without a struggle. You holed up in your room for so long, that I thought you didn't want me around. To be honest, I want to stay here. I do. I think you should do whatever pleases you. Huh? You can stay, or you can leave. I will not pressure you to do one or the other. So, I'm not imposing? To tell you the truth, I had to think about that for some time. However, I have now come to something of a solution. Since you're here, come into my room. Well, okay. What? But I thought I wasn't allowed to. To prevent what almost happened a few moments ago, so we don't accidentally run into each other. Sorry. You're forgiven. Now, come in. Okay. Is this a necklace? If that's what it looks like to you, then I suppose that means I succeeded. Pick it up. Ah. It has a little bell. Oh, it's like a cat with a little bell on the collar just to let them know where you are. It's adorable. Please make an effort to wear that while you're in the house. Because it's dark, there will always exist the risk we might accidentally bump into one another. So I tried to come up with a way to reduce that risk. Does that mean you didn't leave your room because you were working on this? That's right. What other reason would I have? I think most people would assume it was because they put you in a bad mood, or that you didn't want to see them. I have little sense of how most people see the world. Sorry. I appreciate it, though. I'm really glad to know that you put so much thought into a life together with me. It would be difficult not to, after the other day. Hee hee. I'm so happy right now. I can't think of any better way to describe it. I couldn't be happier. You're being dramatic. To tell you the truth, I feel a little bad about it. Why? It seems rather impertinent to affix a bell to someone. You're not livestock. You're a person. That's why you turned it into a necklace? Thank you very much. I'll keep it on me at all times. I really, truly appreciate it, Lord Michel. Don't call me Lord, please. Alright then, oh, is she gonna call him Master? Okay, because that sounds also bad. She has a bell on her, she calls him Master. I'll just call you Michel. And will you please call me Giselle? The windows. What? If we could open the windows. Never mind. I was just thinking you wouldn't need the bell at all if we could get some light in here. They can't be opened? They're rusted shut. All the windows have been shuttered for as long as I've been here. I assumed you had boarded them up. That was done long before I ever arrived. After so many years here, though, I hardly consider it an inconvenience anymore. It also serves to repel wanderers. Oh, really? Is there something odd about that? No. It's just, I realized I had the wrong impression about a number of things. That seems to be the overarching, thing with this these stories. Oh. Ooh. Oh shit, okay. I maybe imagine something slithering into my head, replacing my memories before they can surface. Stop. Oh, that's creepy as fuck. That's really creepy. Alright, let's see what else we've got here. Oh, here we go. Ah. Just like whoever that point of view is, something about their memories. That's really weird and creepy. Okay, I think that's it. No, it's just I realized I had the wrong impression about a number of things. As I learn more, I see things in a different light. I see you in a different light. And I'm sure there's still plenty more for me to learn. Of all the people I've ever met, you are perhaps the most difficult to predict. Not only do you have no aversion to the darkness, The dark has always been a close friend of mine. Which isn't to say I dislike the sun. Its light can simply be a bit too strong for me. I'm like some kind of unholy monster that can't be exposed to sunlight. Not a vampire. Not a vampire. I have to tell myself this. Most likely not. Maybe vampire adjacent? You are anything but unholy. My name would suit you much better than me. Oh, that was weird. That was like a staticky thing. That day, oh, ew, gross noises. That day when I first saw Giselle, I was wary of her, apprehensive. I hate this sound. It's like squishing meat and blood and crackling of bones. I didn't want her anywhere near me. Oh, and there's that crackling again. But as my doubts about her faded, I began feeling something very different. As though the lump in my heart had been melted away. Is that supposed to be the lump in his heart? I hate that sound. Hate it. I began to yearn for her to be at my side, as all the men do in this mansion, don't they? Knowing full well it couldn't possibly last. Knowing full well how foolish it was. I found myself captivated by her. I found myself wishing to have her stay with me. Please don't let this... Okay. Oh... That seems like so out of place in this world. It's almost like TV static, where this is like very old. Just like the setting and everything. Oh, that was so creepy. Okay, so let's check the backlog and see. Oh, here we go. We've got... Scroll up and see if there's anything else. Okay, that one I've already seen. Pretty sure. What a beautiful story. Much better than the real thing, is it not, my dear? Like, who is that speaking in red, you know? It's like, is that the maid? Is that somebody else? Oh, I missed the thing. Sorry, let me just check the backlog again. Damn it, I keep hitting the scroll button, and that brings me back. Okay, that marked the true beginning of their quiet days together in the dark mansion. They acknowledged and accepted each other's presence, no longer isolating themselves, but actively, regularly conversing. As mundane as it might seem, it was something they had been unable to attain until then. Nevertheless, they were still somewhat fumbling around in the dark with each other, drawing closer and pushing away again. Michel, in his own ungraceful way, was beginning to open himself up to the things she said. And the white-haired girl was beginning to smile with greater frequency. They had taken to dining together, and her wish of learning to read was being granted. He taught her in the feeble light of a candle placed upon the table, the two sitting across from one another. Though Michel seemed to be well educated, he had not been instructed in the art of teaching, so he found the process quite grueling. But to the white-haired girl, the longer it took, the better. Her primary objective was, after all, to spend time with him. The days passed, and eventually she reached the point where her comprehension was adequate enough without assistance. Her next request, then, was for them to read through a book together. Have you read every book in the library? No, I stopped looking at them after a while. Most everything I'm sent is dull, uninformative dreck. The Diary of a Lord. Foolish make-believe tales. You're not fond of fiction, I take it. What value is there in the lies and fantasies of another? Stories can be invigorating. Tales of adventure can take you places you could never go, especially him, he literally can't go anywhere. Legends of heroes, folklore, stories of otherworldly phenomena. They can be terrifying, and they can be exhilarating. They may not be real, but they give you a little glimpse into the author's heart. It lets you feel like you're seeing the same thing they saw. You are a very empathetic girl. Fiction inspires nothing of the sort in me. However, perhaps long ago it may have been able to, though I can no longer remember what it feels like. I'm sure it will come back to you. You're not an empty man. Sorry, I'm making you uncomfortable again. How about we read this book today? It appears to be a collection of legends. You haven't read this one yet, then. That's good to hear. It'll be more enjoyable if it's a new experience for the both of us. It looks like it's a record of local legends. The book is divided into several sections, though it appears to be mostly superstitions. I am curious what kind of stories this area has. The two of them were looking down at a simple, undecorated volume. As the white-haired girl had said, it seemed to be a collection of local legends passed down generation to generation. They sat across from one another at the table, her turning the pages, and Michelle simply watching so as not to brush against her. Eventually, her eyes were drawn to a particular word on one of the pages, bringing her hands to a stop. The witch. That chapter detailed the story of a witch, or more precisely, said witch's curse. The story went something like this. There once was a witch, skilled in the dark arts. She lived a meager but peaceful life alongside the other villagers. But then a long drought struck the village, which the people blamed on the witch. The witch was sentenced to death, and as the fire blazed around her, smoke rose high into the air. The smoke soon became rain clouds, blessing the village with an end to the drought. The crops were revitalized, and the villagers fancied themselves heroes. However, the rain also brought madness upon the people. Though the earth below them was lush and fertile, the villagers were losing their minds, and they eventually began to take each other's lives. The witch still lived on in the form of a curse. Many fell victim to the witch's curse. Though it did not only take, it also fulfilled people's desires. The villagers had gone mad, but their wish for freedom from the drought had been granted. So this is like the witch's curse of the mansion where people get what they want, but it comes at a cost. Thus, the legend had been passed down as follows. The witch will grant your wish in exchange for a great sacrifice. As smoke in the sky, she watches down upon us from above. To reach the witch, climb for the heavens. But know that road is a road to destruction. People still believe the witch's legend, even now, I suppose. And that's why I face accusations of being a witch. This is not an area very welcoming to outsiders, especially one who stands out as much as you. What brought you to this region in the first place? Mine is a story I'm sure you've heard before. I was cast out of my house. I come from a very poor family. We could barely even afford to keep everyone fed, and now she's back to being poor again, whereas the last one she came from, like, a very noble house. Being as weak as I am, it was only natural I would be the first to go. I see. What I don't understand, though, is why the witch is said to grant people's wishes. That is to say, she had reason enough to hold a grudge, but not to give people things they asked for. All we have to go on is a few pages. There's no saying what might have changed or added over time, and it's almost certain the entire legend isn't written here. That said, we're to accept everything as written. You can infer what the witch's reason might have been. And that is, if you truly want it that much, you can have it, but I'll make certain your suffering outweighs it. Despair that comes after a moment of happiness is far more agonizing than despair alone. I presume that is why the witch decided to grant people's wishes. That is one way to look at it. May I ask you something? Go on. When I first arrived here, you told me that a cursed witch used to live in this mansion. After reading this legend, I'm now finding it hard to believe that you made that up simply to scare me away. I appropriated the tale, nothing more. It is said the witch was born in this house. What? Quite the place my family found for me, but it was a clever decision putting me here, I think. Not many people are likely to come near a house with such a pedigree, but... No, never mind. That makes sense. I suspect I know what she was going to say then. If the witch is said to grant wishes, then wouldn't that also attract people who so desperately want something? They do not care what price they must pay? And that's her, isn't it? Like, she may not be a witch, but she wishes for something and she always shows up. Whether she's the one who brings the destruction, or she also comes to the mansion because if the witch's curse is here, then she is wishing for something. And it brings her destruction too, because, you know, she always suffers as well. In the meantime, I'm just going to check the backlog really quick. I have to always remember that to make sure that there's nothing that I'm missing. And perhaps she was correct. Perhaps there had been those who had come to the mansion chasing after the legend. And perhaps they had encountered Michel, touched him, and lost their lives. On that day in the garden, he had said, "Many things are buried here." Perhaps that included such visitors. I wonder if that story might be more than mere superstition. If the Witch of Legend really did exist, what would you do? It might be nice to talk to her, maybe. That's all? Really? I feel a little bad for her, though. The only people who ever visit her are there to ask for something, after all. I can only imagine how lonely that must be. I swear, I cannot comprehend the way your mind works. Sorry. Although, if we assume the legend is true, I have an idea what climb for the heavens might mean. Oh? The mansion has an observation tower. Or, I suppose, what used to be an observation tower. At any rate, it is quite a tall structure. This is the house where the witch was supposedly born. A tower reaching for the heavens seems like the perfect place to find her, if she really is here. Oh, yes, I remember seeing a rather tall structure as I first approached the mansion. Okay, the mention of this tower, I'm like, is somebody gonna fall from the tower at some point? Would you like to see it? Of course. Please, lead the way. The two of them left the library and made their way to the room with the stained glass window. At the far end of that room were the stairs to the observation tower. The tale of the witch had piqued the white-haired girl's interest, inspiring her to put herself forward to satisfy that curiosity. She had, after all, been accused of being a witch herself, so she undoubtedly felt an affinity to the legend. What a sweet girl she was. Like, especially that I had to also climb the stairs to get to the door. I believe the door was up here. Like, the observation tower is going to be very important in some way. With Michel in the lead, the two climbed a long, long spiral staircase. There were many more stairs than the white-haired girl had anticipated. She soon found herself short of breath. Rectangular windows were carved out of the stone in regular intervals. Peering through one of them, she could see a village in the distance. A pleasantly cool, high-altitude breeze brushed across her face. After much climbing, they finally arrived at the top, where a door made of partially rotted wood stood. Michel pulled open the door, revealing a small room with no windows or doors in sight. This is again making me think of that story she told about the woman who was trapped in a tower, I think, where she communicated through birds with a man who said he was going to rescue her. This is the top of the tower? Despite it being called an observation tower, you could hardly observe anything from there. Her face contorted in confusion. The white-haired girl threw her gaze about the room. Glancing up, she saw only a darkened ceiling, and slightly below it, a single small window through which shone a little ray of light. The beam cleaved through the darkness like the sharpened blade of a beautiful sword. The darkness draped over the rest of the room only served to make more impressive that solitary ray of light. It had a magical fairy tale quality to it. Like, it really is making me think of that story. And her bringing up stories again, like she wants to read and she likes to read stories about like adventure and stuff like that. As if being pulled in by it, she drew toward the light. I suspect there was once a large window in this room. If you look closely, you can see seams in the stone of the wall. The color of the stone differs slightly on either side of the seams. I presume something caused them to seal off the window after it was built, though I don't know what that something might be. When Michelle's eyes fell upon the white-haired girl, wrapped in that beam of light, he sputtered to a stop. The man who never flinched at anything, who had long since distanced himself from such stirring of the heart, but is utterly bewitched. He had never seen her illuminated so vividly before. He was having quite a deal of trouble finding the words to describe her striking beauty. Once again, she is like a girl. I have to remember this, like she is a young girl in this one. For someone who had been chased out of her home and accused of being a witch, the white-haired girl looked less like a practitioner of the dark arts, and more like one of the host of heaven. Michelle undoubtedly felt the same way, for his gaze was affixed firmly upon her. Dazzling, isn't it? Like a staircase leading to heaven. Yes, perhaps so. Is something the matter? No, I'm fine. You know, it feels like there's something odd in the air here. It feels like someone actually might be listening. If the witch were to speak to you, what would you say to her? I would ask her to tell me her true feelings. Tell me what kind of person she was, and what kind of pain she had to endure. I just want to know what she felt, this woman people branded a witch. The legend was written from a neutral perspective. It's possible she was a fearsome witch. It's also possible she wasn't. I get the feeling she was just persecuted, like me and you. Unlike you, I truly am impure. Disagree all you want, but my touch kills. I am a strange, incomprehensible, irrational creature. Or maybe I'm not even a living being. And that's why when I touch something that is, I bring them death. So I'm trying to think of like how, if this is truly a curse, if curses do exist in this world, or if it is something like the situation with the merchant where it was because he believed he was a beast because of what other people said about him, so he saw himself as a beast, and he saw other people as beasts as well, so it was just like a metaphorical mental thing, or if, like, I'm trying to think if there is a rational scientific explanation for why he would kill people with the touch. And maybe it's not the curse of a witch. Like, I'm always trying to think on the side of, I guess it's kind of like Umineko, like believing in witches or believing in something a little bit more rational to explain a situation like this, you know? If only I actually were a witch. But then again, we also have like a maid who seems to have lived for hundreds of years, and this girl who also appears to live across different timelines. So in the world of this game, perhaps stuff like this does actually exist, and I can't find a rational explanation for it. If only I actually had some kind of extraordinary power, regardless of whether it came from God or the devil, then I'd be able to grant people's wishes. My wish need not be granted. But it's what I want too. I wish to be able to touch you. I would be perfectly content with nothing changing, with us never being able to touch one another. I would be more than happy with that. But I'm allowed to dream, aren't I? Maybe it's for the best, considering he's an older man and she is a young girl that they can't touch. It doesn't have to be in this life. I pray the day will come we can get closer, even if it has to happen in another life. Happiness is very much a stranger to me, but am I allowed to dream too? You are. I will never touch you, I swear it, but I would like to dream about it. I would like to imagine placing my hand upon your cheek. You can. Reach your hand out for me. Once again, gloves? Do gloves exist in this timeline? In this time of history? Some sort of cloth covering? Oh, I will imagine it too. I am imagining your fingers running through my hair, brushing up against my skin. I can feel your warmth. There was a wall between them, a wall they could not cross. For if they did, it would mean the white-haired girl's death. No matter how much they yearned for it, they could not touch one another, so they did so within the confines of their imagination, envisioning it in as much detail as they could manage. It was sad, but sweet, a moment of pristine, untainted beauty. The two of them emanated serenity, as fitting as the word cursed might have been to the mansion as a whole. At the top of the observation tower, a pure bond was being shared. A fleeting moment between a young man with a cursed touch and a kind-hearted, beautiful girl. The dream did not last long, no, for God is quite cruel. They simply wanted to be together, that was all. Their wish was hardly unreasonable. Only a quiet, peaceful life together. But misfortune was creeping ever nearer, its footsteps growing more and more pronounced, as it always tends to be in this game. Hmm? Someone at the door? The flow of time was hazy within the mansion's walls. They had little way of telling whether it was night or day, preventing them from knowing exactly how much time had passed. The white-haired girl had made a habit of climbing the observation tower every so often to see whether the sun was up, which allowed her to approximate the time of day. Consequently, when she heard the knock on the door, she was not aware just how deep the night was outside, that forest and beast alike lay quietly at rest. Really quick, let's just check the backlog again. Okay, so in this one, the white-haired girl, everything. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Hold up. This stuff is new. Okay, let me just go a little bit higher up here. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. So here, everything is like bleeped out between Michelle and the white-haired girl. And then there's question mark, question mark. My dear friend, the two of us have much more in common with each other than anyone else. We both suffered at others' hands, and we both deserve to have our vengeance. Ooh. There they are, speaking in code again, or blanked. Go on, what's the matter? Make this tale into your reality. Surrender yourself in this moment to this beautiful story. And remain here in the mansion with Giselle. Watch, in this moment, this dream. Okay, who are you? Well, that's a surprise. You actually have a conscious mind. And are you aware of who you are? Like, okay, who is the question mark? Who are they speaking to? Are they speaking to Michelle? Are they speaking to me? Like whoever the master is? Haha, you know nothing. Who are you? Someone you once spent a great deal of time with. I must say, I am impressed you made it back here, my dear. Your soul was ground into dust. Or maybe it's talking to the white-haired girl. It will all come back to you eventually, and then I'll be there with you again, my dear, whispering into your ear for centuries to come. And this time I will not fail. I will mold your soul into the same shape as mine. And then, once again, speaking in code, what a wonderful little show these puppets are putting on for us, wouldn't you say? Like, it feels like it's the person is speaking to the master who has lost all of their memories, which is me. They're saying, like, they made it back. It will come back to you eventually. I'll be with you again, my dear. This is really crazy. I'm glad you guys, like, told me, hey, make sure to check the backlog. Giselle. Giselle? Indeed, that is Giselle. The white-haired girl standing there is Giselle. So, like, that they're saying that's her name, but is that actually her name? Then who's Morgana? House of Fata Morgana. Who is Morgana? We once read a book together. It was by the fireplace. You did not. Those memories are false. Books belong in the library. Why would they be by the fireplace? Oh my god, curse them, slaughter them, revile them, inflict eternal suffering on all those souls. Take revenge on the fools who laughed as we agonize. Holy shit, there's a lot here. There was a wall between them, a wall they could not cross. For if they did, it would mean the white-haired girl's death. Okay, so this is all... Okay, this is all normal stuff. Okay, holy crap, that was a lot. That's a lot. Damn. Oh, right. The stores in the cellar are almost... let's try that again. Right, the stores in the cellar are almost exhausted. It must be this month's delivery. Not thinking it was worth bothering Michelle over, she made her way out of her chambers and headed for the entrance. There had been only a single knock, leading her to conclude that, as before, the servant had simply left the box outside the door. So without a second thought, she opened the door, and there she saw a strange, vagrant man standing in the moonlight. His clothes were tattered, his bearded face bony and emaciated. She gasped, shrinking back several paces. The heavy door began to swing shut, but the man forced it open, glaring down at her with unfocused eyes and mumbling, "Are ye the witch that grants people's wishes?" It was in that moment the white-haired girl realized she had been careless. The man had sought out the mansion because he believed the legend of the witch, and he did not seem particularly right of mind either, perhaps a result of wandering through the forest for several days. Or perhaps it was because he was so beaten down that he thought to ask for a witch's help. I wonder if Michelle's going to come up and, like, touch him and kill him to protect her. In a word, he seemed mad. "No, there's no witch here." "Sure there is. Don't you lie to me. I can hear the witch's voice. She led me to this house." I promise you, there isn't. Now please, be on your way. Have you any idea how long it took to find this place? How many days I've gone without food or water? And you telling me to get lost? I don't know what you want from me. I'm happy to give you a little food, so please. Is there really no witch? There is no witch here. It's nothing but a legend. If she does exist, she doesn't live here. I see. Then that means you're just an ordinary person. Uh-oh. Just a person. Oh no, just a girl. So there ain't a thing you can do. No, get away from me. What are you doing? Why waste time waiting for you to get me a little grub when I can just take it all? I'm starving here. I'm so hungry, I could eat human. You're about to commit a grievous sin. Are you not ashamed to act in defiance of God? God? If I believed in God, would I come begging to a witch? I don't fear him, and I sure as hell don't fear people. Who's gonna show up at a house in the middle of nowhere? Who's gonna call me out? Who's gonna stop me? No one, that's who. No one's gonna stop me, and no one's gonna offer me salvation. Ah, there's a thought. You're a woman, so afore I kill ye. Oh, here we go. What are you doing? What? There are other people here? The white-haired girl lay pinned to the floor beneath the yelling bandit, pleading for help with her ruby eyes. As soon as Michelle grasped the situation, he tossed his candlestick aside and leapt for the man. The candlestick gave a sharp clang when it hit the floor. The impact extinguished the flame, bringing the mansion to near-perfect darkness. Something glinted in the bandit's hand, and then, without hesitation, he thrust it at Michelle. Oh shit! Whoa! Michelle, that's not how I thought this was gonna go! Ha! How stupid must ye be to come at me unarmed? In his hand, the man held a knife, its tip dripping with Michelle's blood. Red spilled from the gash in his arm, the flow growing heavier with each passing moment. You're the only other person here by the looks of it, eh? Perfect. I'll take ye both out. You. What? You don't appear to know whose house you tried to break into. What are you on about? Regret your ignorance to your very last breath. You're messed up on the head, you madman. Look who's talking. Aye, stay the hell back. Take one more step and... I inherited the witch's curse. Let go. Michelle clutched the man's face in one hand. The man raised his knife to strike back, but... Duh. Well, I mean... It's kind of hard unless he literally is like a poison frog who has poison through his veins when he touches things. Like, I don't see how I can explain this with anything other than a witch's curse right now. What's happening? The strength drained from his fingers, the knife falling to the floor. The man writhed in Michelle's grip. Ah, me face, I can't breathe. Leave this place immediately, though you won't get far afflicted with my curse. Ah! Ah! Helpless to fight back, nay, helpless to even consider fighting back, the bandit fled from the mansion in terror. In his wake, only the white-haired girl and a bleeding Michelle remained. I just saw a man's life drained from him, his face withering away, sucked completely dry. I didn't doubt him, but dear God, that was quite disturbing for you, I'm sure. No, not at all. It's my fault anyway, if I hadn't been so careless. Oh, your arm! We need to get that wrapped up. Please, do not touch me. You mustn't touch me. The wound is hardly fatal. It's all my fault. I'm so sorry. No, a degree of the blame falls on me for saying nothing. Next time someone comes to the door, let me know. I'm sorry. Please, you don't need to apologize. Well, yes? For once, I'm actually proud of myself. Proud that I could use this terrible ability of mine to do something more than just take a life. To protect someone I care about. So, like I said, please don't apologize. Alright, thank you. Alright, we gotta check the backlog and see if we have anything, because that was quite the event that just happened. So maybe whoever, like, that voice was saying before about, like, take revenge and all that stuff, but it doesn't appear to be... No, nothing there. Alright. Michelle? I'm glad you're here. I care about you, too. Thank you. Had the flame of Michelle's candle not gone out when he threw it to the floor, he would have seen a heartfelt smile on the white-haired girl's face, and she would have seen a flush of red and an awkward smile on Michelle's normally blank face. He also might have seen a little glimmer on her cheek, where a few drops of his blood had landed. Oh shit! Hopefully the blood isn't like a slow draining poison as well, because oop, that sounds bad. But alas, they had no light, and maybe she's gonna start getting sick and he won't understand why. Okay, interesting. Right, so that will wrap up this episode. So as promised, it's a longer one than last week's. I'm sorry again for it being so short last week, but hopefully this one makes up for it. And yeah, we are starting the fourth door, and very interesting that Michelle character from the painting from way back when shows up back again. And once again, it seems to be yet another case of a man who lives at this mansion. White-haired girl shows up and brings happiness, and they kind of fall in love with her a little bit, and then everything just starts to go wrong. And the way that we left off with the talk about the blood on her makes me think, and you know, they also implied like the happy days were about to come to an end soon, that she's gonna start to get sick, and maybe he will venture out to try and find her medicine. Maybe he'll do something drastic to try and save her, I don't know. And then of course there is the interesting kind of like fourth wall breaking of going to the backlog, and there's extra conversations, things in red, someone speaking, question mark, whoever this is, who are they speaking to, what are they talking about? It definitely sounds like a nasty person who's, I don't know, pushing people to seek revenge. Perhaps they're talking to me, the master, because they're talking about like, oh, you know, your memories, you'll get them back eventually. It's all very interesting. So I don't know how much longer is left of the fourth door, and people have told me this is not it. The fourth door is not the last one, despite what the game has said. So that makes me happy to hear. So I hope you guys did enjoy this episode, and stay tuned for part 9 next week. Until then, bye guys. Special shoutouts to my top tier patrons: Nana, Kaori Makoto, Revealing Storm, Tequila Mockingbird, Jared Fan, Izzy Ibo, Asborn Kennedy, Harry Gazif, Icognito, Locus Carolus, and Mad Goldsmith.